In more ridiculous news coming out of the United States, Donald Trump has put out yet another racist executive order. This time, it's requiring that all truck drivers, all commercial truck drivers in the United States speak English.
California, we had an issue where you had an illegal alien truck driver that got a commercial driver's license in the state of California, employed by a California company, kill 3 people in Florida. This guy didn't even speak English. We're bringing him up on charges. He's going to face a lot. And I can announce, Jesse, that I said initially the company needs to be held accountable. And we've been working with the federal government, and they are pulling that company's license to do business because you cannot employ somebody who cannot read the road signs.
All right, guys. So I'm sure by now most of you are at least slightly familiar with this infamous and tragic incident in Florida that is now sparking a nationwide immigration debate after this illegal alien truck driver tragically killed 3 young adults on a Florida highway after he apparently did not understand English, did not understand anything basic about the traffic laws in the United States, and despite that was given work authorization by Gavin Newsom in California and the Joe Biden administration, and hence here we are. But we got to give you some updates on that, because not only today is this scumbag being brought to justice, and very appropriately so, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio is issuing what some are saying is a controversial decision. How could we do this? Which is to pause the issuance of new worker visas for commercial truck drivers, at least temporarily, until we can figure out what is going on. This, of course, comes right after Trump's recent requirement just a couple of months ago for all truck drivers to be proficient in English, which similarly back then liberals said was racist and xenophobic. They said it's going to cause shortages of truck drivers. Don't you know? We need all the illegal aliens to be working these jobs. And in a very tragic and unfortunate sense, I guess you could say Trump was absolutely right, because here you literally have a case where this guy, who's a commercial truck driver, did not understand English, and that now got 3 American citizens killed. Of course, while the guy is not just not from this country, he's not just a foreigner, he's an illegal alien on so many different levels, right? You see the vindication of Trump's ideas, whether that's his reforms to the workforce or the deportations, on many different levels. Nonetheless, we'll give you some of these full updates here today, as well as the fact that Gavin Newsom, who has a huge responsibility to blame as for why this guy was allowed on the road, and we'll tell you why, is trying to shift and abdicate responsibility. He's trying to claim that his policies have nothing to do with this. Well, in today's video, we're going to clearly lay out for you why that is the case. So the full rundown on this, what's his name, Harjinder Singh individual, and the absolute massacre that he caused on the Florida roads in today's video. First, though, do us a favor, as usual. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, I'm sure that many of you have already seen this gruesome and horrific video, but if that's not the case, let's briefly play it for you, and I'm going to kind of explain what's going on here so that you can understand it if you're not familiar. So essentially, you know, this is Florida, right? You have, I believe this is a 3-lane interstate on each side, and there's these little medians in the middle. Usually the police hang out in the middle of them, but as someone who currently lives in Florida, I can tell you, they all almost say official use only, right? So basically, random guys, truck drivers, you're not allowed to make a U-turn on this part of the interstate. This is only for police, construction, official state, you know, people and all of that. This guy goes right through the official use only. He tries to make a U-turn illegally. Apparently, he doesn't know the words that are being said there, which, again, we'll explain is probably the case here. And because of that, while he's making the U-turn somewhere where a big 18-wheeler semi-truck is not supposed to be going through, essentially the trailer gets caught behind him in the middle of the road, and as a result, some cars crash into the trailer as it's just trapped in the middle, and that, of course, tragically kills 3 people. So here is the video so we can explain for you what we're talking about. And obviously no graphic aspects of this will be shown on the screen, but yeah. See? Honestly, many things went wrong here, because not only is he illegally making a U-turn, he doesn't even think to stop and look behind him like, hey, are there cars behind me? Can I do this safely? Nope, just no regard for any of that. You can see in the moment, he doesn't even seem to be remorseful or upset about, of course, what happened here. And essentially, there you have it. Now, guys, would it exactly surprise anyone to find out this is an illegal alien? Of course. But of course, we're also told that, this is so essential for our workforce. America's supply chains could not survive without illegal aliens. Well, as it tragically turns out, actual Americans, tragically, are unable to survive with these illegal aliens being employed in positions they obviously should not be. But here's the full timeline on this matter, guys. Not only is he an illegal alien, he's an illegal alien who entered this country in 2018 through California. Yeah, guess what? He received his work authorization from the Biden administration in 2021 after the Trump administration denied it in 2020, and then, of course, got his CDL, got his permission to drive the big truck in the state of California. This is despite the fact that on the English proficiency test, as he had to get and require the CDL, he was only able to read 1 out of the 4 traffic signs. He's illiterate in English and only could answer 2 out of 12 questions on an English proficiency test. As I said, you're in Florida. All of those medians, all those axes in the middle say official use only. Sometimes they even have like a big red circle saying that you cannot go here. But obviously, as this guy apparently can't read traffic signs, can't speak English, so he can't drive nor understand traffic signs, despite all of that, was allowed by the state of California, by Gavin Newsom's government, to issue and receive a commercial driver's license. And guess what? You're now seeing the results of that. It's not about xenophobia. It's not about, oh, you're just racist, you just don't like immigrants or something. No, this is about the fact this guy, first of all, again, shouldn't even be in the United States, but secondly, is completely actually incompetent for the job. And of course, they're mad now. They're still mad to this day, by the way, that the Trump administration wants to require truck drivers to learn English. Well, perhaps this is the reason why, because it seems pretty essential to me.
Dana, 28-year-old Harjinder Singh is expected back in Florida later this week to face state charges of vehicular homicide. He's currently being held in California without bond. He appeared in court yesterday with the help of an interpreter. He agreed to sign paperwork for his extradition, and Florida authorities must pick him up by August 27. Singh was driving on Florida's Turnpike last week when authorities say he attempted an illegal U-turn, blocking oncoming traffic. A minivan slammed into the trailer, killing 3 Florida residents inside. Following the wreck, investigators with the U.S. DOT gave Singh an English language proficiency test. According to a DOT press release, the driver failed the assessment, providing correct responses to just 2 of 12 verbal questions and only accurately identifying 1 of 4 highway traffic signs. Because Singh, who entered the U.S. from Mexico in 2018, is an asylum seeker from India, the DOT says Washington state violated federal guidelines by issuing him a full-term commercial driver's license in 2023. And they believe New Mexico State Police may have failed to assess his English skills during a roadside inspection. Additionally, the DOT says it's investigating whether California acted within federal guidelines when it issued Singh a limited-term CDL in 2024.
By the way, an asylum seeker from India who entered through Mexico. That doesn't really sound all that correct, does it? You know, first of all, I don't know what he's fleeing in India. Is he a Christian minority or something? Because besides maybe that small aspect, I'm not sure whatever civil strife is actually going on in that country. But secondly, of course, you're supposed to seek asylum in the first safe country you can get to. And apparently, in the entire Asian continent, there's not a single safe country he could have gone to seek asylum. He had to go to Mexico, not go to the United States, go to Mexico, and then go to Mexico, go to the United States through Mexico. He couldn't even seek asylum in Mexico, apparently. Just keep that in mind. That's the so-called asylum seekers that have abused our system for the past several decades now. And finally, the second Trump administration just says, no, we're just going to reject all this. Okay, no seeking asylum in the United States. It's basically all just going to be denied. And that's, of course, the way it should be. Now, here you see the announcement from the state of Florida. because of course it's not just about an asylum abuse. It's the fact that 3 different Democrat states all gave this guy the authorization to drive. He couldn't answer any English. He doesn't speak English. Hey, you want to drive a truck? Which, keep in mind, it's a little harder even to be a truck driver. No, because you have to know English. You have to stop at the way stations and understand all that. He can't even read the road signs. That's very safe. There's some actually highways that say you can't drive trucks here. I guess he probably was doing it. You'd have to imagine, right? You know how it goes. So anyways, here you are. So St. Lucie County, on August 12th, state troopers responded to this crash on the turnpike in St. Lucie. The crash involved a minivan and commercial semi-truck and trailer. Based on our initial but ongoing criminal investigation, it is evident that the driver of the commercial semi-truck recklessly and without regard for the safety of others attempted to execute a U-turn utilizing an unauthorized location. As a result of his actions, the 3 occupants of the minivan are now deceased. So after basically finding the video and understanding what happened and say, oh, he committed vehicular homicide pretty clearly, state troopers obtained a criminal arrest warrant for the driver, Harjinder Singh, for 3 counts of vehicular homicide. During the course of this criminal investigation and with the assistance of ICE, state troopers determined that Singh had entered the U.S. illegally, having crossed the Mexico border in 2018. The defendant then obtained a commercial driver's license in the state of California under the federal authority delegated to ICE by Florida Highway Patrol state troopers. State troopers issued an ICE detainer. Quote, "The actions taken by the defendant while operating a commercial tractor trailer are both shocking and criminal. 3 people lost their lives as a result of his recklessness, and countless friends and family members who experienced the pain of their loss forever." True. And look at him. He doesn't even seem to show any remorse for it at all. Singh is in custody on state vehicular homicide charges and immigration violations. He will no longer be able to damage and destroy the lives of Floridians and visitors. At the conclusion of his state charges, he will be deported. Florida Highway Patrol remains committed to enforcing both state and federal law to ensure justice. So there you have it. Now, after all of this, everything you've learned, okay, you might think Gavin Newsom would try to just stay out of this. It's pretty embarrassing for him. But nope, the Governor Newsom press office, as a matter of fact, tried to counter this. They tried to say it was not our fault. It was not Democrats' fault. It's actually Trump's fault that this all happened. They were trying to say that Trump gave him the work authorization and all of this, despite the fact that when you actually listen to the details, and the Department of Homeland Security here did indeed respond, no, none of that is true. No, this is entirely on Democrats and Gavin Newsom, and here's why.
Hey, genius, talking to the Trump administration. The federal government, Trump admin, already confirmed that this guy meets federal and state immigration requirements. You issued him a work permit as usual. The Trump administration is either lying or clueless. P.S. at Grok, who was the president in 2018. So this was all part of Gavin Newsom trying to pretend like he's a tough guy like Donald Trump because he doesn't have enough to do in his own state, like rebuilding neighborhoods that were burned to the ground by the wildfires. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS Assistant Secretary, responds and absolutely destroys him, saying false. Harjinder Singh, who's the driver of the truck that did the illegal U-turn, who's an illegal and should not have had a license, is in the United States illegally, and his work authorization was rejected under the Trump administration on September 14th, 2020. It was later approved under the Biden administration, June 9th, 2021. The state of California issues commercial driver's licenses. There is no national CDL. Sincerely, genius.
Yeah, so there you have the usual. Newsom trying to gaslight and lie to everyone. But the facts are pretty clear and obvious here. Again, the Trump administration rejected his work authorization. Biden overturned that. Then California and 2 other blue states give him permission to have a CDL. Now what happens? Everything that happened here is the fault of Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, and Democrat governors and their policies. Now, of course, still to this day, you'll see. So after they got destroyed on this, because again, the Trump administration did not grant him work authorization back in 2020, it was Biden who did that, they now are changing the goalposts, but still trying to argue the right wing somehow caused this. The deflection, can't you just take accountability for 2 seconds? No, that's not the case. So first of all, responding to the fact that apparently after the incident, They took the guy's information, but the guy fled to California to try to flee Florida charges. And in the end, he was extradited. But in response to all of that, right, you hear Newsom here saying that Florida let a murder suspect walk. California police had to step in and arrest him, and now Florida's new lieutenant governor is staging a photo op to pick him up. Meatball Ron, who lost to Mickey Mouse, is now proving that California's so-called sanctuary laws actually work. Thanks, Governor. Facts. Entered this country in 2018 under Trump. Received a federal employment authorization work permit. Now, keep in mind, first they were saying that Trump gave him this. Now they're just saying, oh, they received authorization. Hey, Gavin, this second bullet point right here, which administration did that occur under? So now they say, oh, he was reissued a federal authorization employment on April 9th, 2025 during the second Trump administration. Yeah, he received a renewal, but guess what? Who gave him the initial work permit? Putting aside automatic renewal, the Biden administration, right? So as Libs of TikTok here eloquently points out, here's the facts. First of all, they're even lying about the arrest. California authorities did not arrest the illegal truck driver. U.S. Marshals did. So California had nothing to do with this, as usual. They didn't help one bit, right? Secondly, he received his work permit under Biden, yes, after Trump denied it. And thirdly, yes, California gave him a CDL. Nonetheless, here is the satisfying image you will see today as Mr. Harjinder Singh is indeed extradited back to Florida and greeted by the new lieutenant governor of Florida, Jay Collins.
DeSantis of Florida is talking about the illegal immigrant truck driver who had the driver's license from California that killed 3 people in Florida. Let's listen in.
He will arrive in Florida today, and he will get the book thrown at him very shortly after that, I can guarantee you. So stay tuned. You're going to be able to hear more for that. But how ridiculous is it that somebody would get a commercial driver's license who doesn't understand the language of this country, doesn't understand road signs, doesn't understand these things? And the feds, when they had him detained a couple days ago, they did an English test and he failed abysmally, not even close. Like, not only like, a little English, no, he was terrible. And yet he's getting these commercial licenses from these sanctuary states. And in the U.S., we all kind of have our opportunities to run our states the way we want. We've chosen to be the free state of Florida, and I think most people here appreciate that. California, Washington State, they're choosing much different pathways, and I think it's been very destructive to the people there. That's why people have fled those states. But, their policies and their recklessness spills over to other states in this country, and it's spilled over in this case to the state of Florida. So the 3 Floridians are dead, in part because of the recklessness that we see out on the left coast. And, I think it needs to stop. But ultimately, it's going to require Congress to get off its rump and actually do something about this. Defund sanctuary states, defund sanctuary cities, rein in the excesses that we've seen in these states time and time again. And I hope that happens, because we cannot just sit and allow these tragedies to occur on and on and on. It's got to stop.
I totally agree. It should be national legislation. In order to receive a CDL, or heck, I would really argue any kind of work authorization in the United States, no matter what it is, you should be proficient in English, because it's just the language of this country, okay? And clearly, as you can see, there's safety hazards with people who don't understand it. Now, that said, before Congress inevitably just does nothing about this, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is indeed taking action, which is generating some pretty odd outrage we'll show you in a second, because it really does seem like, after everything we witnessed, everything the Trump administration has been doing to try to reform new application permits for truck drivers makes perfect logical sense. But apparently here is what he said. Effective immediately, we are pausing the issuance of all worker visas for commercial truck drivers. No more work visas for commercial truck drivers. The increasing number of foreign drivers operating large tractor-trailer trucks on U.S. roads is, as we've seen, and by the way, this is not the only example. There's many other of these throughout the years, past few years here, is endangering American lives and undercutting the livelihoods of American truckers. And by the way, both of those things are true. But here you see just an example of the reaction that a lot of liberals are saying in response, right? This guy right here, who's apparently some type of Democrat strategist, says there's nothing that will F with the consumer economy faster than causing a trucker shortage. Oh my God, these idiots, right? And of course, this is so often the rhetoric you hear about any deportation or any immigration restriction policy. But the economy, who's going to drive the trucks? Who's going to do the jobs that Americans won't perform? And again, this is what they're all saying about this. Now, before I even looked into this, I thought to myself, as someone who simply lives in this country and knows things about it, right? I've been in other places besides Georgetown and Washington, D.C. and like Upper Brooklyn in New York City, to know that what are they talking about, right? Because I understand the arguments on some levels like, oh, you know, who's going to work in a textile factory? I think Americans would if you actually paid them or made it appealing. But when it comes to truck driving, that's far from the case, right? Truck driving is incredibly common. In fact, it's, I would assume, right, the most common pathway, because you know plenty of people who do it. For people who maybe finish high school, don't go to college, that's what everyone does. They get their CDL, right? Or people who just want to turn their lives around, they worked unemployed for a while, you know, CDL. So I thought to myself, what are they, since when does America have a shortage of truck drivers? Truck driving is an incredibly common profession in this country. But then I thought to myself, oh, who are the people saying this? As I said, they live in places like DC and New York City in this tiny little bubble where they don't actually understand anything about this country. They don't know a truck driver. They probably never met one in their lives, right? But then I did some research on this, and here are the numbers. Okay, first and foremost, so let's debunk this alleged myth that America needs illegal truck drivers, or heck, even immigrant truck drivers in general, to sustain its supply chains. Well, these people might be shocked to find out that first and foremost, not only is truck driving an incredibly common profession already in America, there's no shortage of people who are trying to do it. It is the top #1 profession in 29 states. Oh, what, Americans won't work these jobs? Don't you know? That's why we need the migrant workers. Top profession in 29 states. In over half the country, geographically speaking, it is the most common job that Americans are taking. Now, here's another interesting question. Okay. So I thought to myself, again, just knowing the country and being around it, that most truck drivers are probably native-born American citizens, right? I mean, surely it's probably actually a very small minority of migrant truck drivers who are causing all these problems. But then I went to research it. And according here to a, I believe, 2023 report out of US DOT, actually, as a matter of fact, yes, the Department of Transportation, I looked this up. And it turns out that only 15.7 to be exact there, 15.7% of all truck drivers in the US are not born in the US. Okay? So that means the other 84% of all truck drivers in the United States of America, 84%, are natural born US citizens. Keep in mind, this 15% number is including naturalized citizens who probably know English, legal permanent residents, legal immigrants, all of these things, all of that combined, plus illegal aliens and all that other garbage. Only 16%, 15 to 16% there. So the point of all of this is to say what? Oh, by the way, let's look at limited English proficiency. Because keep in mind, that's another argument they made. When the Trump administration said you have to be proficient in English to drive a truck, they said, this is going to create a labor shortage. Don't you know? Only illegal immigrants are working these jobs. Only 3.8% of all CDL commercial truck drivers in the United States have limited English proficiency. The other 96 to 97% speak English. And again, why is that? Because contrary to the narrative of American citizens won't work the job, that's why we need the immigrants and the illegals and all these things. No, American citizens are overwhelmingly working these jobs. The only point, the only purpose, and this is again what, actually, sorry, let me zoom out there. What liberals are actually defending here, the only purpose is corporate greed. That's the only reason why any freaking company in this country can't find an American-born truck driver or just doesn't have the will to, because they understand foreign labor. Hey, you know, we can pay them less. We can drive them for longer hours. They're not going to demand anything because we can always just hold the immigration status over their heads. Even this liberal immigration lawyer, as you'll see right here, this person is an immigration lawyer and alleges herself to be an advocate for human rights, actually debunks herself in her own tweet, right? So she goes on here to say, quote, there are very few work visas issued to commercial truck drivers, probably in the few hundreds, if that, a year. The reason they don't really fit into the H-2B because the shortage is not seasonal or temporary, blah, blah, blah. So essentially, the admission here she's making is there's actually very few foreign truck drivers in the United States. But okay, if that's the case, then what is the problem with banning that? And keep in mind, too, as for the arguments that this is going to create a worker shortage or something. Okay, did you read the language of the tweet? It never said, actually, that we're going to be revoking all work visas for truck drivers. We just said we're not issuing any new ones. What's the problem? And by the way, another interesting disparity perhaps to talk about, as, you know, these people consistently continue to argue that, oh, Americans won't work these jobs. That there's currently actually a disparity in Americans who have CDLs, commercial driver's licenses, versus the actual people who are truck drivers, which is to say there's more CDLs in this country than actual people who are working as truck drivers, which is to say what? There's a bunch of Americans literally in some way, shape, or form or another lining up to work these jobs, and simply they're not able to find them. As you can see, over 10 million Americans held commercial driver's licenses in 2022 and 2019. That's the average number. But the people who are professionally truck driving in the United States is 3.5 to 3.6 million. So the argument that left-wingers are still making, despite this evidence, again, they just don't know what they're talking about because they never actually been around this country, okay? Just total blind ignorance here. Is that despite the fact there are 7 million Americans with CDLs who are not working in the profession, Americans just won't be truck drivers. That's why we need immigrants, guys. They're going to do the jobs that you're not. It's ridiculous. Shut up. You guys don't know what you're talking about. You guys only come up with these stupid ideas because you're probably staffers who work in DC and you've never been anywhere outside of the country besides like maybe the wealthy suburb you grew up in, your university campus, and your little interning in the Capitol or whatever, okay? Because outside of this, you stupid, narrow-minded liberals, again, there are plenty of truck drivers. There's plenty of American citizens, as we showed you the numbers, if you don't believe, millions of people's personal accounts who all just know this is the case, that will drive a commercial truck in this country. Stop telling those Americans that, oh, it's a mandatory thing that we replace your labor with migrant, immigrant, and illegal labor to do that. And while they're doing that, they're murdering American citizens on the road. It is disgusting on so many levels. So for all of this in mind, I have to say, total vindication for the Trump administration and everything they've been saying. Yes, all CDLs should know English. That's not racist. It's a matter of public safety. Hey, you want that not to be the case? Maybe prove that people who do know English can stop being so dangerous on the road and actively murdering people, number one. Number two, there is not any need in this country for foreign labor to drive trucks. We've shown you the math on that, okay? So stop spitting on American citizens in multiple ways, both the people driving the trucks and the people on the road who are just trying to get home without dying, okay? All of these people. Give me a freaking break. So anyways, with that said, guys, there you have it. That is the full chronicle on this scumbag and the greater narrative he represents on so many levels. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.